Hello, YouTube. It's your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, coming at you again with another YouTube video. And you see the title of this video, so I want to jump into this subject. The way this video came about was I was watching several videos done by, lots of different Passport Bros. And one of the topics that's been coming up lately is there's a lot of Passport Bros that feel that Sousua has become very Americanized. A lot of people are saying a lot of the Pookies and Ray Rays have started to come down into Sousua. A lot of women have started to ask for higher prices, and because the dudes are so thirsty, a lot of these guys are actually paying them. And the same can be said about Medellin as well. There's a lot of people have been saying that a lot of guys been coming down there, a lot of American guys, and they've been causing inflation by giving a lot of girls there, including the girls that including the non-pro girls. A lot of times when they're taking these girls out, the guys are being very simpish. They're giving them, you know, taking them these high end restaurants, spoiling these. Pretty much, they're they're pretty much saying there's been a lot of simping that's been going on. As a result, some of the women there have been a little bit more entitled, especially for the guys to do the P for P. They're just saying that the girls there have been asking for these high end prices, which have never been the case before. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about why that is, and also my opinion on whether or not Medellin and Sosua have become Americanized, and also give some solutions as well. And before I get into that, this is kind of related, but I wanted to go on a small tangent, but it's related to this topic as well. So what I want to show you is something that recently surprised me was that Fresh and Fit were recently in Medellin, Colombia. Anybody who does watches Fresh and Fit, their typical setup in which they bring a whole bunch of different girls on the panel. They ask them questions about relationships, and a lot of times they try to debunk their talking points and that kind of thing. The thing I thought, and this is not a diss to Fresh and Fit. I still here and there I'll tune in to see what they're talking about and that kind of thing. Even though now they made me a little bit, kind of rubbed me the wrong way with some of the Nick Fuentes stuff that I saw. But nevertheless, what I thought was very interesting about this was that they actually came down to Medellin and actually dealt with some of the women here. Because a lot of times them and some of the other dating coaches have tried to stay in the United States and say, oh, the women are the same everywhere. Let's just stay here. So my thing is, why go somewhere else? But in their defense, they might say that, they're just going on vacation. They just want to, go across the globe and go to different spots and kind of mix it up, spice things up. But I just thought it was very interesting that they actually did come down to Medellin. Now, I feel I'm kind of split about this because what I don't want them to do is I don't want them bringing that American mentality and culture down there. And for example, in Brazil, there's a lot of like these game dudes coming down to Brazil trying to pick up women doing game and that kind of thing. And what a lot of people don't know from one of my videos I did previously when I did the video about feminism in Brazil, before the whole Austin Holloman situation, just to give a quick recap, there were some game dudes that came down to Brazil. They were bringing women to like their to like a certain location and running. They had guys that were running game on them, and a lot of women there felt kind of like exploited, and so they spoke out to the authorities. The authorities pretty much kicked those dudes out of Brazil, and pretty much I feel like Austin Holloman got caught up in that. They kind of associated him with that, even though most passport bros we're not dating coaches. You don't really need game when you go out of these countries. You don't need any of that. But I just thought it was funny that Fresh and Fit came down here. And of course, their mentality is like red pill, which they think all women are the same, all women just want money. So of course, when they come down here, they're gonna look at the women and kind of think that they're the same as they are in the United States. Now, I hope that after dealing with some of the women here, that they've kind of got a little bit more. I'm hoping they'll see the difference, but I may be wrong because it's kind of like what's the word? It's kind of like when you first go down to when you first go outside of the United States, you still have that matrix mentality. So you kind of view the women the same. It just takes a while for you to kind of, what's the word? It's kind of like once you start dealing with the women outside of the United States, you will start to pick up on and start to notice things about them that are, overall better as far as like, you notice their sweet demeanor, how easy they are to speak to, and then it's very easy to start pick up on how they're different from American women. Now, here's the thing. Now, that's if you're looking for it. Now, on the other hand, if your podcast is bent on saying that women are this way, it's kind of like your heart. It's kind of like they say, well, like one of my kung fu teachers used to say, like, you want to come in. You don't. If your cup is filled, you want to empty your cup. You don't want to come with a full cup. You want to let them pour into your cup of like. Pretty much, you don't want to come with a strict knowledge. Like, you don't want to come in with this hard, rigid view already. You want to let your teacher to kind of sharpen you up and give you some new set of knowledge. So my whole thing is that I hope to me, it just appeared that when they came into Colombia, they came with this rigid, rigid, strict way of viewing women. And I feel like I feel like that's going to kind of rob them of the beauty of Colombian women and just women in general who are outside of the country. So, and the only reason I brought this up because now you might be saying, well, why does this tie into the whole Americanized thing? But what that lets me know is that we are passport bros is becoming very, very mainstream to the point that even the dating coaches can't really ignore us. They have to acknowledge us. And in many cases, what you're starting to see is many of them are starting to gravitate towards foreign women. Even as I told you before, the dating coaches were down in Brazil. So a lot of them are really not even dealing as much with American women. I saw previously at one point, O'Shea was trying to say that Drake was like a passport bro. There was several different celebrities people have brought up that now dating like foreign women. So, and I talked about this. This was one of my first videos I kind of really talked about in which the question came up: what happens when Chad and Tyrone, all these big celebrities, when they find out about American women, is that going to kind of ruin the passport bros? Because now you have all these men that should be doing well in the States. Will they be coming back? Will they start coming out outside of the country? And my response to that pretty much was, there's no reason for them to do that. For example, if Drake or one of these big rappers, if they're in the United States, they're the top of the food chain. They kind of have their pick of the litter. As we know, most of the women are really only dating this 20% of men. So if you're in this 20% of men, it really doesn't make any sense for you to go outside of the country unless you're just going out there for vacation. Which, in my opinion, I think that's the case for Fresh and Fit. I don't think that put it this way. And AMS has said this too. He had said that he did deal with some foreign women in the States, and he did see that they were like of a different pedigree. So I think that they will acknowledge that that there is a little like they are overall better for relationships. What I suspect though is that when you consider the fact you got to pay a plane ticket, you got to get like a hotel, and then you're also in another country where it may be like less safe. People don't really speak your language. When they kind of take all those things into consideration, I think for them, for the men who are in the 20% or celebrities, I don't think they're going to. I think it's too inconvenient for them, especially when they could just go back to the States and they could just go on things like seeking arrangements or, in general, they have women all the time going to spots where they're located, with the sprinkle lady telling them to go seek out these men at certain restaurants. They don't really have to do that. They can just really just post up in their regular spots. The women pretty much are going to be seeking them out. And there's no really reason for them to get a plane ticket and go somewhere else looking for decent women because the women in general are going to be the state's going to be very cooperative, even though I think in the end they're going to try to steal, divorce, put it this way, they're still going to try to take them to the cleaners in the court system. So that's why I think for them it's going to take them a little bit longer to get it. I think it'll probably take that first divorce for them to finally say, you know what, I don't really want to deal with American women. Let me see what a foreign woman is talking about. And what's his name? Fresh and Fit. What's his name? The main guy or whatever. So anyway, he's saying that I do know that he was saying at one point he was thinking about going maybe to like Africa, and when he was deciding to get married, maybe get like a wife there, that kind of thing. So I said that to say that's why I brought this up. The same thing with and here's even AMS. He recently did a video, and shout out to AMS. He's one of the few dating coaches here or there I still might like check out because he does have like, for the most part, he's an entertaining dude. Even though he's not a passport bro, but he's still like someone entertaining. And obviously, as a pastor, bro, I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. I don't think anybody agrees with 100% of what everybody says. But in his video, it wasn't a diss. He was just saying that he pretty much apologizes to Pastor Bros. He understands why we're actually leaving. Because pretty much if all the red pill dudes are pretty much saying that the American women are difficult to deal with, and you got to go through all these loops to deal with them, why would Pastor Bros logically deal with them? It makes more sense for us just to leave. But anyway, I only brought him up to say this, that him, AMS, also Fresh and Fit, it's showing that a lot of dating coaches are coming around. They're starting to really understand. They're starting to get it because after a while, they're starting to see that it's a little bit more efficient just to deal with the foreign women, even though they have the luxury of being in the top 20%. Because even in this video, AMS says that he gets it, but he's not going to do it because it just for him he's doing really well in the States. It makes no sense for him to actually leave. So shout out to AMS. But the reason I brought it up was just start off the video just to talk about now to get more deep into the subject of are things Americanized. Again, these two dating coaches are showing you that it's becoming more mainstream. And here's the thing: when I was in Medellin recently, they had fixed up. I think it's called Parque. I can't pronounce the park's name. I think it's like Parques Lettuce. Somebody correct me in chat. Sorry, in the comments. But anyway, there's a park area that they recently fixed up because of the crime there. Now, I had a buddy I met down there, and he was still more into like the P for P type thing. And he did bring to my attention that the women there have upped their prices and that kind of thing. But here's the thing. A lot of dudes are so thirsty and so starved of love and attention from women in the United States that when they go down there for the first time and they see all these beautiful women, they're willing to pay that extra amount of price, even though you can get it for nearly half of what these guys, they say the guys now are paying. But because a lot of these guys are newbies, they don't really know. They're just watching Passport Bro videos. They don't really know how to kind of conduct themselves down there. They're going down there and they're paying these prices. So what's happening is a lot of the women are seeing that they can kind of get more out of gringos than they usually would get. So a lot of women off top are saying, hey, this is the amount I want if you want to take me out. If you don't pay this amount, I'm good. And so a lot of guys are struggling with this. So unfortunately, what's happening is you're starting to get these high standard prices. Now here's the thing. This is where when I talked about in one of my videos about how would that cause the women become a little bit more masculine, a little bit more entitled to deal with, and that kind of thing. Well, here's the thing. South America is filled with several countries, and to mention both Dominican Republic and also Colombia. There's several different cities in Colombia. The thing is, I've always said this about Medellin. To me, that's more of a touristy type city now because the first place most people want to go whenever they leave to go to Colombia, they always say, I want to go to Medellin. But they forget about Santa Marta. They forget about Cali. They forget about Bogota. They forget about what's a few of the other ones? There's a whole lot of other cities that are pretty much off the beaten path that most guys don't really travel to. I really liked Bogota and also Barranquilla. I went to Barranquilla as well, and I bring up the cities to say that I've been to these cities as well. And unbeknownst to a lot of the guys there, even some that may be listening, you do understand that the P for P thing is all throughout Colombia, even those smaller cities that people don't know about. Now, it may not be as pronounced as it is in Medellin because that's a very big city. It's a lot of money there. It's a lot of jobs and that kind of thing. So a lot of women tend to flock there. But keep this in mind. Venezuela is right next door to Colombia. And a lot of times the Venezuelan girls, when they come over, they don't have a lot of money. So a lot of them are not flocking necessarily to Medellin. They're looking for places where rent is like cheap. And if you didn't really know, there's a big movement in Medellin to push a lot of the gringos out of Medellin because you have a lot of nomads there that are actually setting up shop, getting apartments, and it's raising the rent there. So a lot of times when the Venezuelan girls come there, they don't really stay in Medellin. You will find a lot of them like in Barranquilla. You find a lot of them like Cali. Also in like Santa Marta, some of these other like Bogota, these kind of things. And instead of to say that when they come over, um, they don't really have paper sometimes. It's hard for them to find work, and as a result, the women there they would definitely do cheaper prices. And even on the dating tip for a lot of guys, because I know there's a lot of guys that don't deal with pros in general. A lot of guys say, "Well, I don't deal with pros. I want to deal with regular girls." And I'll say this to you: a lot of girls I've dated, I'm talking about non-pros. A lot of them have been like Venezuelan, and I'm willing to. And here's the thing about Venezuelan women: some people may agree and not or disagree. They tend to be of the prettier women a lot of times. A lot of them sometimes are even prettier than a lot of the Colombians, and they're more, what's the word? They're less entitled, and and because they come from, as I said, like their country right now is pretty much destabilized. You don't really have to take it like, and I'm not endorsing you necessarily just go to the bottom of their restaurant. But what I'm saying is they're not going to be as quote unquote entitled as the Colombian girls. Even though, and here's the thing, the Colombian girls are not entitled. So what I'm saying is they're going to be even less entitled. So if you are dealing with women who, put it this way, if you are in a spot in Colombia where you feel like the women are entitled or they're starting to get very uh, have these strict prices and strict standards, or you're dealing with a non-pro and they just say like before you could take these girls to like the local restaurant, but now she wants you to wine and dine her, she wants you to buy you all these things. There are plenty of Venezuelans within Colombia that that are less spoiled, be very appreciative of you taking them out on dates. A lot of times, even though some people caution against the apps, well, I won't say that here, but pretty much I've used some apps outside of Medellin, and a lot of time, like I said, um, the Venezuelan girls tend to be a lot less entitled. I'll say that, and because so I'll say that. So basically, what I'm trying to say at the end of the day is, I would encourage most guys, if you are afraid of Medellin being Americanized, I would encourage you to go visit the city of Barranquilla. I would encourage you to go see Cali. I would encourage you to find all these little cities outside of Colombia. I'm sorry, outside of Medellin. Go to those cities, explore those cities. They also have P for P there. Keep in mind that the local men, they don't have the money of American men. And since there's less Americans going there, the prices are still going to be almost like the local prices. And I'll assure you, it's going to be a whole lot less entitled women there, and then nowhere going to be asking for the prices that they're asking for Medellin. I can assure you that. So, if that's your thing, P for P, I'm not saying I do that. I'm not saying you do that. I'm not saying that because you got to be careful. Big Brother is listening as well. So just we got to talk a little bit more codified. I'll say that way. So, I'll say that. So I encourage you to do that. If that's your thing, P for P is your thing. I would encourage you to go to these like smaller cities, go there, do your thing. If you don't really do for the P for P thing, and I just say that you go to Medellin, and now because there's so many American men there, you feel it's becoming Americanized. I would encourage you to check out Cali, avoid Cartagena. In my opinion, mostly because it's a big foreign city where a lot of foreigners go there, not just Americans, but people from like the UK, Canada, that kind of thing. And plus, it's an expensive city in general because it has a beach and everything there. Like, for that reason, in general, of course, the women there are going to be a little bit more entitled, want a little bit more out of you, want you to take care of them a little bit more because everything there is very, very expensive in comparison to like the other smaller cities. But that's my take on that. Same thing with Dominican Republic. I would say if you're worried about the women there being a little bit more entitled, demanding, a little bit more, what's the word? Trying to run game on foreigners, that kind of thing. I would encourage you to go to Santo Domingo, which is it's a little bit. It's not as touristy as Sosua, but I would recommend at least one time you got to go to Sosua, or even Medellin at least once, just to say that you're going there, just to see the difference. But I assure you, once you start leaving these bigger cities, these well-known tourist cities, you get outside of that, you'll see that the women tend to be, even in comparison to the women in those cities, which are even less entitled American women, just wait till you go outside of those bigger cities and you go to these smaller ones. Your mind is going to be blown. So I would recommend that you take a chance on these smaller cities, right? Because right now, Passport Bros movement is blowing up. It's getting bigger and bigger, which means what? That means there's going to be more American men. That means there's going to be more Canadian men, more men from the UK coming out to Medellin, coming out to Sousua, more often. So what you're seeing now in Medellin and Sosua is not necessarily going to go away. But keep in mind that the reason it is the way it is because a lot of men they're so uh they're just so starved of female attention that they're willing to give in to these women's demands there, which are making some of the women a little bit more entitled. Whether you're talking about people, even just girls in general that you're dating, you might have a girl there that put it this way, tend to be a little less loyal than they used to be because they feel like now they may feel like they have a little bit more options because there's so many like foreign guys coming down there. But my recommendation to you is to go more to the less traveled cities. And even besides that, there's a lot of guys don't talk about Peru, like Lima, Peru. That's been on my checklist to go to Lima, Peru. Also, a lot of guys when they go to Brazil, they go to like Rio. But I've been trying to go to like Sao Paulo. But and there's several. Think about Brazil. Think about how big Brazil is. How many little cities are there? But most guys generally are just going to Rio. They're just going to Bahia. But there's so many cities to visit in Brazil. If I had the time, I really would like to hit every single city. And I forgot the passport bro's name. I think his name is Dennis. I can't remember his last name, but he's the passport bro that's been in Brazil for a while. He actually has hit every single, well, not every single city, but about almost every single city in Brazil. Has a ton of knowledge. I'll try to find his channel if I can and put it in the description. But the point I bring it up to say is that there's lots of spots throughout Colombia and Dominican Republic and Brazil that are a lot less traveled, where the women are less entitled there. And even with the passport bro movement blown up, most of the guys when they first come to these countries, they're especially the newbies, they're not going to go to these smaller, cities or even countries. For example, you also have Guyana, you have Ecuador, you have you have Ecuador. These other little countries that are right there in South America that a lot of guys are not traveling to, but there's a very, very good scene there. What I would say to you is this, and I have to be very careful because again, Big Brother's watching. I don't want to put myself into a situation because of course, as you know, they're always trying to tie the passport bros into let's say this the there's a tourism piece to traveling that they're always trying to tie the passport bros to. So that's why I would just say if that's your thing, that's your thing. We got to try to be a little bit more under the radar. I'll put it that way. But if that is your thing, my thing to you is there's plenty of websites online that talk about this specifically where you can do your research. You can find cities outside of Medellin, outside of Sosua, where you can still get you can find less entitled women, things well within your price range, that kind of thing. You don't have any issues. And also, as you can see now, less foreign men are traveling. Everyone now, Africa is the big thing. A lot of men are not traveling there, but it's definitely on my bucket list. I definitely would like to go to Kenya, Nairobi. I definitely would like to go down, like I said, to Sao Paulo, Brazil, Lima, Peru. I've been to Thailand, but I definitely want to check out the Philippines. It's been like on my list for a while. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of little spots that a lot of passport bros have not hit up, which I encourage you guys to go out and try out. And especially if you have your channels, tell us about how it's like in these different cities, these different countries. Because that's, to my opinion, the other reason besides these cities become Americanized is just the fact that these are the most traveled to cities. There's the most knowledge about them. But we need guys who are pioneers who are going to go branch outside of these cities and tell us about these other cities, these golden gems as well. So I kind of made this video a little longer than I wanted it to be. But I'm going to end it at that and just tell me what you think in the comment section about all this. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not. I'm really trying to grow this channel. Please hit the notification bell. I'm gonna start trying to do some streams soon to try to get, try to hopefully grow my channel and get to know all of my subscribers and everyone who's been listening. And yeah, and until next time, this is your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, signing off.
Dear Passport Boys, dear Passport Bros, stop calling yourself Passport Boys and Passport Bros. Are you going to the Philippines to look for a Filipina queen or what? So stop calling yourself Passport Boys and Passport Bros. Start calling yourself Passport Kings.